Welcome to the first annual Changemakers Celebration. We're so happy that you're able to join us for this fabulous celebration. And we're able to bring the celebration to you live in dual languages. You can choose to listen in either English or in Spanish. We're also simulcasting the celebration on Comcast Channel 23. And the celebration is being recorded. So thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight. And let's begin the celebration. I'm Lucy Tomes Harrington. I am the Vice President of Programs for the American Association of University Women, Lompoc Vandenberg branch. And on behalf of my board and our members, thank you for coming to this great celebration, first annual. Very, very excited. A little bit about AUW. AUW is a nonpartisan organization open to all genders. And our mission is very simple and it's very clear. Equity for all. And with that, in our context, I'd like to just say thank you so very much to our collaborators of change.
Gracias.
And I'd like to bring up the slide. Our next changemakers, our next generation of changemakers are the Associated Student Body Government of Allen Hancock College. Welcome, welcome to them, and thank you for being our collaborators. And for students that are in our audience, I have a special announcement for you. If you've registered and attended, there is a $15 gift card in it for your attendance. And thank you for joining us and being a future change maker. Thank you to our sponsors tonight. Our Pillars of Change sponsor, the Allen Hancock College Foundation and the Santa Ynez Band of Chumash Indians Foundation. They're joined by the contributors of change, the Fund for Santa Barbara, the Santa Barbara Commission for Women, and Coast Hills Federal Credit Union. With that, we'd like to start by a land acknowledgement. We recognize that Lompoc and Vandenberg rest on the ancestral land of the Chumash people. We honor the Chumash elders, past, present, and future, as well as all other indigenous people here tonight. Following the Chumash tradition, we're gathered here as a community to learn and grow and, yes, celebrate together. So let's start the celebration. For this first annual celebration, we chose 5 outstanding change makers, women leaders making change in our communities, our state, and our nation. All women of color. We're tremendously proud and honored to have them here with us tonight. And let's go ahead and get started. I'd like to bring up and introduce you to our next generation of change makers, the Simmons Sisters. Here they are.
Hi.
I'd like to welcome you. They're zooming in all the way from downtown Lompoc, California. We've got Asia Simmons,
Hi.
Amia Simmons,
Hello.
and Malia Simmons.
Hi.
Welcome. I'm so happy that you're here with us tonight. And you are singer-songwriters with a special performance for us. But first, can you tell us a little bit about how you were inspired to become singer-songwriters?
Songwriting just kind of came naturally to us. And as young women, especially in today's society, you know, we have a lot to say and songwriting provides us the outlet to do so.
Great. And the song that you're about to perform for our audience tonight was specially written, I understand, for this Changemaker celebration. Can you tell me a little bit about what we're going to hear?
So this song we kind of wrote in contrast to Remember the Women, which you will hear later on about the history of women's struggles. And this song we wrote about the current struggles women face individually and how us women overcome those struggles.
Wow, that sounds great. And Malia, what's the title of this song?
This song is called Yesterday.
Ladies and gentlemen, performing the world premiere original score written for the Changemakers Celebration, the Simmons Sisters performing Yesterday.
One morning I woke up, it was raining outside, but I felt different. Something was different. When I was growing up, they said, go pick a side, but now it's different. Everything's different.
There's roads I've been driving, but I need some guidance. Don't know where to go now. It feels like I'm fighting with my own reflection. I'm learning to let it go.
My mama said, listen, there's something they're missing. And being a woman don't equal submission. It means that you're strong, and that's something that you should know. I may bruise and I may bleed, but I will fight for what I need. The girl you know, she's here to stay. I won't look back on yesterday. In my future I can see a woman I can't wait to be. Nothing can stand in my way. I won't look back on yesterday. I won't look back on yesterday. I felt the rain on my skin, and there's clouds in the sky. They say it's confusing, but I know what I'm doing. I packed up and said goodbye to the pain of the past. How can I be losing if I love what I'm doing?
There's roads I've been driving, there's mountains I'm climbing. I know where to go now. I'm no longer lying to my own reflection. I'm learning to let it go.
Daddy said, hey now, the world's just a playground. Just follow your heart and it will all be okay now. Cause honey, you're strong and that's something I know you know. I may bruise and I may bleed, but I will fight for what I need. The girl you know, she's here to stay. I won't look back on yesterday. In my future I can see a woman I can't wait to be. Nothing can stand in my way. I won't look back on yesterday. I won't look back on yesterday.
Wow, that was fantastic. Thank you so much for that beautiful and inspiring song. Really, that's wonderful. And you'll be back a little bit later on to perform another song that you wrote for us. So thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'd like to introduce an iconic change maker, an organizer and an activist, Dolores Huerta, the president and founder of the Dolores Huerta Foundation. Welcome, Dolores.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you very much for inviting me to celebrate with you, so we can celebrate what we as women are. And I want to thank the Simmons Sisters for that beautiful song, and I would love to see it in writing so that many of us can actually learn it and also share it with other people. And so we have so much to celebrate. You know, we just had this week, we had the first Native American woman that was named to head the Department of Interior.
Yay.
And this is a huge department because it actually covers all of our national parks, all of the land management. It covers, it protects the Native Americans, okay? Which is really great because now we have a Native American being in the position of authority to be able to stand up for Native Americans, because we know that there has been so much abuse in the past. You know, she also, by the way, is also in charge of we have a lot of our public lands that have, in the last administration, that have been opened up to mining
Yes.
and to oil exploration. Instead
Yes.
of taking care of our public lands and our national parks, that they have been opened up for exploitation.
Yes.
Now we have a woman in charge.
At last,
In charge
at
of
last,
all-
at last.
She's in charge of all the rivers and all of the lakes.
Yes.
I mean, it's like Mother Earth has somebody that is going to protect her.
Yes.
And her name is Deborah Holland from the state of New
Absolutely.
Mexico, which, by the way,
Yes.
used to be where I was born, in that state also.
Oh, that's wonderful.
If you haven't been to New Mexico, take a trip there, especially northern New Mexico, because it is so beautiful. They call it the land of enchantment, and that's
Yes.
why, because it is so beautiful.
Wonderful. Well, we're just tremendously honored and excited to have you here, Dolores. And if it's okay with you, we've got 1 million questions that came pouring in from our audience at the registration. Is it okay if I just dive right in and start asking some?
Okay, I just want to make one statement ahead of time.
Please.
Okay, one minute. And number one, I want to quote Coretta Scott King, who said that we will never have peace in the world until women take power. Ladies, listen to that. How do we get rid of wars? We put women in power of the Defense Department and as president, et cetera, of our country. Okay, eventually we're going to get there. The other thing is that we need to have women in every single board. We need to have gender balance, and I'm going to use the word feminist because not all women are quite there yet. Some women aren't quite sure of their power, and I know that there are some men, like our friend Austin, who's here with us, who are feminists, and they support women's reproductive rights, women's right to abortion, et cetera. So, we have to say, we kind of have to open it up a little bit to say we want feminists in power and we want gender balance, because you know what happens? If we do not have equal number of feminists on those decision-making bodies, they're going to make the wrong decision.
Yeah. Yes. They
We'll have
need,
to remember that.
they need our voices. Absolutely. Well, great. Let's dive right in. Thank you for those words of wisdom for sure. The first question is, how is the Dolores Huerta Foundation involved in making sure our agricultural workers are informed about and receive the COVID-19 vaccine?
Well, we have done a lot of work in not only informing workers and people in our low-income communities, and we're actually doing it by going door to door.
Wonderful.
Even in the pandemic, our canvassers, they have their shields on, they have their masks on, and they are giving people information directly on their doors. So, and we've been doing this, by the way, throughout the pandemic. We have had over 100 canvassers, and we're doing this, by the way, in 4 different counties, in Kern County, Tulare County, Fresno County, and in the high desert Antelope Valley.
Wonderful.
We've had a lot of food banks and giving food to people. We've also raised money because often, especially the undocumented farm workers, they were not able to get the stimulus money that came out of the HEROES Act, out of the Congress. Mm-hmm. And we've also been advocating to make sure that the farm workers are considered essential workers. Yes. And with the new money that just came out of the Congress, that the president, just coming, the new checks that are coming out, many undocumented workers, farm workers, are going to be covered because Wonderful. They have now been categorized as essential workers, and they are going to be getting hazard pay. Okay.
Wonderful.
And so even if they're undocumented, they can get hazard pay. So this is a day-by-day operation that we've been doing every single day during the pandemic, and working to make sure that and by the way, also distributing thousands and thousands of masks to people. Wonderful. To make sure that they have the protective equipment that they need.
And a follow-up to that from Dinah in our audience. She'd like to know, what can I do personally to support the farm worker families in my community right here in Lompoc?
Well, we know that the farm workers do need an awful lot of support. And I would say if there are food banks in your area, volunteer And if there aren't any, ask the question, why aren't they? And people might say, well, the farm workers have been working every day, so why do they need additional food? Why? Because the children have been at home.
Yes.
The children can't go to school. And so one of the members of the family cannot go to work. They have to stay home with the children. So their income has been actually cut in half. Yes. And then also we know that the farm worker is sometimes seasonal. So while they might be out there working, there are sometimes when there's weeks when there is no work for them. And we also have to keep that in mind. And the other thing too is we can, one great way, because again, we have a lot of undocumented farm workers. There is an immigration reform law that is now in the U.S. Congress. And we know it's not going to be an easy ride to try to get that Immigration Reform Act passed. So, and I'll probably be repeating this again. Just send an email to your congressman and tell him to please vote for the Immigration Reform Act. And if we have relatives in other states, because in California we have two good senators. We have the mighty Dianne Feinstein.
Yes.
We also have our new senator, Alex Padilla.
Right.
Former Secretary of State. So, but if you have relatives in other states, especially the southern states or the Midwest, where you have senators that are not really friendly to Latinos or farm workers, or especially undocumented people, ask them to do the same. You know, I was on Broadway and I got to hear Michael Moore, the documentary filmmaker, and he said this. He said, when you wake up in the morning, you wash your face, you brush your teeth, and then you contact your congressman.
Words to live by. Those are words to live by. Thank you. And another question that came in is, from your perspective and your experience, is there a societal or cultural gap between men and women of color that perpetuates a lack of support or belief or diminished value of women of color? Do you see that?
Oh, absolutely. We know, and the sexism that we have in our society, it isn't just in our society to people of color. It is systemic. It's in, as we know, in our whole society. And women have been socialized that they have to support men, advocate for men, and not advocate for themselves. And I believe that the domination and the mistreatment of women also comes from slavery. It has the same roots as, as white people. Slaves were supposed to, and indigenous people who were also slaves, not just African slaves, but because somehow you're supposed to give all of your energy and all of your work for somebody else, but not for yourself, and do it for free.
Yeah.
And do it for free without getting paid. That's what slavery is. And then, of course, that goes to the domination of women. Women are also supposed to work for less money, or women that are at home doing all of the work of raising a family, which is probably the most precious work that there is, are not respected or recognized, and of course not being paid for. And then it also, the ramification is also to children. So this is where all of this domination comes from. It comes from slavery, and we have to recognize that. And it exists in all cultures. And it's something, of course, that we as women, that we have to keep fighting to make sure that we eliminate that. We have to keep fighting. And I know that in many families, it's expected that the woman does all the cleaning and the cooking, and the boys don't in the family, or the men don't. And women have to speak out, and they have to insist. And to begin with children. Yes. You know, my mother was an equal opportunity mother. My brothers had to cook and clean and wash. I was never asked to serve my brothers to ever iron any piece of clothing. In fact, my brothers cooked better than I did. And this is the way I raised my boys also.
Yes.
And so we have to just say to all women out there, you've got to stand up and you've got to fight and say no. All of the guys, they have to do the work just the way that the women do. And it might be a little culture clash in some families, but we have to start somewhere. And if people get a little bit angry with you when you insist on saying that we need to have equal work here at home, the guys and the girls, it's okay, because that's what John Lewis said. We have to start a little bit of good trouble. Okay,
That's true.
this is good trouble, and we have to start saying that. You know,
That's
and standing up.
absolutely true. And with being an activist your whole life, I'm wondering, what is your greatest concern today? Of all of the challenges that are before us, what do you believe is the greatest concern that we face?
So we have so many challenges, and I think
Yes.
a lot of them, as I mentioned before, have the same root. You know, the sexism, the misogyny, the homophobia. You know, the discrimination that people have right now, that people are suffering right now. But there's a real easy way, and I want to say to all the women in the room too, we really have to stand up for the right to abortion. And I know we might have some Latinos in the room, so I'm going to share a word of wisdom that came from the indigenous president of Mexico, Benito Juarez. And he had a great saying that we can share. And the saying is, el respeto al derecho ajeno es la paz. Respecting other people's rights is peace. How many children a woman chooses to have is her business.
Yes.
A woman has to have the right, and to her own body and nobody else.
Yes.
Nobody else.
Yes.
Who somebody wants to live with, marry, okay? That is their human right, even if that person happens to be of the same sex.
Yes.
How many children somebody else has or does not have, none of your business. Who somebody else lives with and loves, none of your business, okay? Respecting other people's rights is peace. And we have to really promote that and become missionaries, again, to end the homophobia, to end the sexism, and to end the racism in our society. So I think the biggest challenge is just this whole idea of domination, that some people can dominate others because they think they're better because they're lighter in skin, or because they feel that they're men and they can dominate others. No, we've got to get away with that. Our human race survived on this planet because people took care of each other, they protected each other, and they shared equally to make sure that we could survive.
Yes, absolutely. And two last questions here. One of Lisa asked, for women in their late 30s and 40s, you were kind of getting at this earlier, Dolores, what can we do to enact change despite having children at home and working a full-time job?
I know it's hard. The one thing I do want to say is that on President Biden's agenda is universal child care.
Yes.
And that's something that we as women should fight for, because we need women's voices in civic life and in public life. And also when they're working, we know it's a big burden on women to always have to think of who's going to take care of my child while I'm at work. So if we can advocate for universal child care, we know that our children, they will not only be taken care of safely, but they will also be educated in the process.
Yes.
And I think maybe California, we might be the first state that's going to make this happen, okay? Because I think that is also on Governor Newsom's agenda. So the other thing, again, as I mentioned before about us getting active in the political realm, you may know that the Equal Rights Amendment, putting that into a law is all right. You're ahead of me. Well, but it's now in the U.S. Senate.
Yes.
Okay? It's in the U.S. Congress. We want it to become part of the Constitution of the United States. Virginia was the 38th state, as we know, to ratify, to vote. And so now we've got to get the U.S. Senate, especially, to kind of move the date when they had to get the 38th state. And so we can make Equal Rights Amendment part of the U.S. Constitution. And if people want to join in that, maybe we can put it on the chat. So there is a website for this. It's called ERA2021.org.
That is wonderful. My aunt wore this button, Dolores, on a hot July day with 100,000 women, friends, and allies in 1978 to extend and to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment. And so I'm so happy to hear you have those words of encouragement, because we waited a really long time. And I wanted to know from your own perspective, is now the time for equal rights? Is now the time that we're going to see it? Can we do it?
I think we can make it happen, but we're going to have to really work hard on the U.S. Senate to make sure it happens. You know?
Yes.
Along with the immigration reform, this is also going to be very difficult to pass. So I'm going to repeat it. It's ERA, yes,
Okay.
2021.org. That's really easy to remember. I happen to be on the board of the Feminist Majority Foundation that was founded by Peg Yorkin and Eleanor Smeal. The executive director is Kathy Spiller. And by the way, the Feminist Majority Foundation also happens to own Ms. Magazine. So Ms. Magazine is still around, and people can go to the web, and you can download Ms. Magazine and get
Wonderful.
a copy of it. And it comes out quarterly, and it has been voted one of the best magazines. So I invite everybody, and there will be more information about the ERA and what women are doing all over the world in Ms. Magazine, MS.Magazine, that was started by Gloria Steinem.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Dolores, for being here with us and to celebrate the first annual Changemakers. We can see why you're an inspiration and a force to be reckoned with. Thank you for your work that you've done and the work that you're doing now. Very much appreciated. And congratulations on all of your awards, including the 2 presidential awards and the Presidential Medal of Freedom. So well deserved. And congratulations on your work at the foundation.
Thank you very much. And I want everybody to always remember that we have the power. And by the way, I just want to say something about Senator Monique Limon. I have to congratulate her because she was able to pass a bill in, I guess, the last session of the legislature. This is because people get ripped off on these payday loans. And for years, I think almost many years, we tried to pass this bill. And it didn't pass until Monique Limon got that bill, and she was able to pass it. So she is an awesome representative, a really great legislator.
Absolutely.
And now that she's in the Senate, we're going to see she's going to do more good works and definitely represent women and low-income people and people that need protectors. So, viva Monique Limon, everybody. Viva.
Viva. Viva. Thank you so much, Dolores Huerta. And Senator Limon, I don't know how you can do a better introduction than that. I'm not even going to try. The first Latina ever elected to the 19th district, representing the Central Coast. So much work in the Women's Caucus, so much work in education. And when Dolores Huerta says viva, we're all saying that's right. So thank you so much for making time out of your busy schedule and doing the work for us in Sacramento to join us here tonight for the first Changemakers.
Thank you so much, Lucy. I got to say thank you so much, Dolores. It is such an honor to be here with you. And a lot of you have been asking questions about Dolores in the farm worker community, but her activism and her work really in our country and around the world is not just limited to farm workers. What Dolores didn't tell you is that this bill that we both got out together, she was a part. She was there making videos. She was getting the word out. She was there for the bill signing. And I think it's been incredible to see how much more work there is to do for all of our communities at large. And yes. I know for me, Dolores is, iconic in the farm worker community, but also in the consumer protections community.
Absolutely.
I think that's really important. And you don't see a lot of women in this space. And so it has been an honor. Dolores and I are also partnering this year on another consumer protection bills for folks who, get into fraudulent contracts, yes. Especially in the Central Valley. And so we will continue to work together. So it really is an incredible honor to be here with Dolores Huerta. And I can only, the fact that Dolores Huerta just said, Viva Senator Monique Limon is like, oh my gosh. And I'm just going to play it over and over for my family. I feel like I've made it. So
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Dolores. And you know, there's a lot of work to be done. I think, you know, Lucy, you just mentioned, I came into this world as an educator. It also happens to be that I am the first, not just Latina, but the first person of color to represent Senate District 19 in the California State Legislature. And I think about what that means to have first, right, in 2020 and 2021. It's not just exciting. I think that, you know, there's definitely that piece to it, but it's also a recognition that there's still a lot of work to be done.
Yes.
2020 has been a year that's reminded us in a very kind of in-your-face way, how much more work we have got to do for parity on all fronts.
Yes.
Parity for women, parity for communities of color, parity for those who are disabled. I mean, the list goes on. I think that when living in a pandemic, you see some of the disparities show up in ways that are really, you know, you can't ignore. And certainly the pandemic has brought about those disparities in terms of health. But the thing is that the disparities also exist in the environment,
Yes.
in education, in the labor force. I mean, the list goes on. You can't just look at one disparity among our communities of color or underrepresented communities and really stop there. The list goes on. We've had a rough, you know, it's been a rough year, I think, for everyone. But I also want to, you know, talk a little bit about the fact that we have seen hate crimes go up
Yes.
a lot more in this country. And just in the last 48 hours, we've lived something very terrible where we've seen our API brothers and sisters be targeted. We saw six API women yesterday shot by, you know, someone who was not right, someone, you know, who I think folks are calling a terrorist of sorts. And so I think it's important to recognize that the work is still a lot. We have got to do more work, but we also have these moments that we can reflect on when we do work together, that we're able to get our accomplishments or our achievements done. I know that when I think about everything that's happened in the last 12 months and how difficult it has been to govern, incredibly difficult it has been to govern in the middle of so many challenges, so many imperfections. I also look to the fact that our communities have been working together, and you see pockets all throughout the state of California of places where we've been able to do better because communities have partnered up, because government is working with local nonprofit organizations, with for-profit folks, with advocacy organizations, you name it, to be able to solve some of these problems that we're all facing. Problems that are very difficult to solve, but problems that, you know, are that are very important to try to solve for our community's well-being. So lots has happened in the last 12 months, and certainly, you know, I'm very honored that the Santa Barbara and Ventura counties elected me to serve in the state Senate. And, you know, I'm there as the first person of color, the first Latina from this area. And this area. But really, the advocacy is for all, because you see, when you look at some of these issues, for example, consumer protections, they impact a lot of folks. You know, discrimination and fraud is not just limited to communities of color. We see it more prominently in communities of color, but it's not just limited. And so I think that it's important to recognize that. As the former vice chair of the California Legislative Women's Caucus, I also had the chance to work a lot on women's issues. Issues that, again, in 2020 and 2021, we are still trying to talk about how we keep those to, you know, make decisions about our reproductive health. And these are things, you know, for some of us, we thought that the battles had been fought for us. Right? That the generation that came before us did the work. So we were thinking, hey, we're going to get into politics, into government, and all we have to do is advance the work. But it turns out that in 2016, in November of 2016, my generation and generations after me learned that that is not the case, that we will always have to fight to defend our rights, because at any moment, those rights can be taken away from us. And we have seen that in the last years. Elements that we believed to be our right, that we were done fighting for because they were not going to be challenged, that's simply not the case. And I think that that's a reminder of a lot of the work that we have left to do on all fronts. We can't take for granted that the laws that we have in place, the policies that we have in place, the rights that we have earned, that we have fought for,
Yes.
are always going to be there. And certainly, I know that, conversations and dialogue is really, really key to making sure that we keep our community educated based on facts, based on science, and based on really well-rounded conversations about what we can do best. So it's exciting to be here with you, even, more exciting to be on this virtual platform with the amazing Dolores Huerta.
Absolutely.
It's really an honor to represent all of you in the California State Senate.
Well, we're incredibly blessed to have you. Can we get to a couple of questions from the audience?
Do it.
Let's
Yeah.
do it. Let's do it. What's the greatest challenge you've had to overcome in your career, and how did you overcome it?
Well, I think that the greatest challenge is not limited to one, first of all. I think that sometimes people see Monique Limon and see, and they'll say Monique Limon, the state senator, and they kind of see the outcome of a lot of challenges and a lot of obstacles that I've had to overcome. I am the proud daughter of immigrant parents. My first language was Spanish. I'm an ESL student. I'm the first in my family to go to college. So if I think of my, most recent challenge, I don't want to undermine that the challenges came well before.
Yes.
And I mentioned this, while there's some excitement for me to be the first person of color, the first Latina, to represent this area, it also comes with a lot of, challenges. And I think that one of the biggest challenges that I've had, as an elected official, particularly in this space, at the state level, is the fact that you continue to be one of the only ones, or the only one, in
Yes.
those spaces. And that's not always the easiest. When your voice is strategically dismissed, it can be very difficult. When you find yourself, in a space where you're speaking, as the only woman, and you're representing, right, all women.
Everyone.
When you know good and well that in your own family or in your own circle of friends, every single woman thinks extremely different, right?
Right.
These are the moments that I think become much more challenging. And I think also, not giving up in those moments, and believing that there is still a path for elected officials like myself, who really want to do good for the community, to keep doing this work, because it is not easy. So I think that the challenges are a lot, and I want to recognize that all of the challenges that I've gone through in my life have prepared me, I think, in small ways, right?
Yes.
For some of the bigger challenges that I face now in terms of moving policy and legislation forward, and fighting some really big special interests.
And speaking of which, how do you bridge political differences with extremists, or do you even try?
I do try, and let me tell you why. Because my mom comes from a family of 12. So she has 11 siblings, and my dad comes from a family of 11, so he has 10 siblings. And we, have gotten together as families, and I got to tell you that we have learned how to bridge a whole lot of differences while still breaking bread. And so I think it's really important not to ever give up on that. I think dialogue and conversation helps us get there. But certainly I think that I also, while there is every effort to engage as many individuals as possible, to hear differing opinions, to understand both the strength and limitations in your own arguments, your own ideas, and your own work, I'm very centered on what my values are. I can discuss the policy and idea, but my values, are those that are my constant. And so I think that in those moments, the extremism is something that I ensure, there's a space to hear all opinions and all sides. But that space doesn't always get into another area that questions the values that I think are important to move forward on behalf of my district. And one of the things that you recognize when you represent almost 1 million people like I do, that's almost how big every California State Senate seat is that you really can't please everyone. And so when you understand that and you accept that, but you put forward that you will absolutely do your best to incorporate as many opinions as you can into your deliberation process.
Yes.
I mean, really, I think that that's the best you can do. And I think it's important to recognize that that's the best we're going to get from a lot of elected officials. If we don't always agree, even with, our most loved one in our family, whether that's your partner, husband, wife, whatever, it's really hard to expect to agree with an elected official 100% of the time. But what you do want to do is you want to ensure that their deliberation process is inclusive, is thoughtful, and has a place for feedback, including yours.
And a question that has popped up time and time again has to do, is there a coalition of legislative leaders that are working together in the state to promote equity for all? And if so, what are their highest priorities and which policies can we look forward to seeing?
Absolutely. There are coalitions. So in the California state legislature, there's a lot of what we call caucuses, right?
Yeah.
So I'm part of the Women's Caucus. I used to be the vice chair for the Women's Caucus. I'm also part of the Latino Caucus. And so all of these caucus really look at ways to provide equity for all. But equity for all is so big. So we break it up into umbrellas. And certainly you'll see legislation and policy move forward every year on the, in this particular space. This year, you're going to see legislation really around women. I'll give you one example that the California Legislative Women's Caucus is championing. And I want to give credit to former Senator Hannah Jackson, because she was the one that has introduced this bill year after year after year. It has not gotten out. She's no longer in the legislature, but there is someone that's running this bill, and that is the pink tax. When you think about equity for all, right? What's equity for all if women are paying more when they go out to buy a toothbrush, a comb, a razor, you name it, because it is made for women, and
Yes.
the marketing consumer, retail world feels that women will pay more for some of these products. So we want to make sure that that becomes equal, and that's not the case. But we really did have an incredible champion in Senator Hannah Jackson, and Dolores Huerta talked about women on corporate boards and more.
Yes.
Right. I mean, that is all very, very key, and that is a lot thanks to former Senator Hannah Jackson, who is still very involved, and I still.
Very good. And now, what can we do to help rural areas and rural communities that are not as active get involved and help make change?
I mean, I think there's a lot that we can do. One, recognize that those that are in rural communities don't have the same kind of access, whether it's physical access or virtual access. Another bill that you're going to see through the California state legislature is a Broadband for All bill. In 2020, we learned how important it was to have access to internet and stable access, not just for the students that were at home, not just for the individuals that were working, but also for those that wanted to access, for example, telehealth appointments. And so I think it's, very important to recognize that, when we talk about equality for all, it is in every single bucket. And so we do have a Broadband for All bill. And I say that because our rural communities in the state of California have been disproportionately impacted by the fact that they don't have access to broadband. So the students there struggle more, those that are trying to access telehealth appointments or trying to work virtually. And so you will see those two bills. I'm a co-author on both of those bills. It's two bills working together, one through the Assembly, one through the Senate, that are working for all. But I think it's important work, and this is part of how we build equality. And when I think about this and why this is also important is because these are folks that haven't had a chance, at all times to email me, to tell me what they think.
Yes.
So your question was, how can we give them more political access, right?
Right.
And those are some of the things we do. I think also being aware, creating a space, identifying the policy issues where we could support our rural communities. But there's a lot more work to do in our rural communities. I know that on the vaccine front, we continue to have these conversations.
Right.
You see a lot of the urban metropolitan area get the big, massive sites for vaccines. Well, what about our rural communities?
Right.
What are we doing? And what we also have found as a best practice is that with our rural community, the expectation cannot always be that the rural community will come to us. At some point, we must go to the rural community to provide those services and that information and resources altogether, so that they can also be equally advantageous in their growth and advancement.
Yes. Great. I can't wait till that broadband bill. Let me tell you what.
Yeah, I know. I've driven, trust me, when I don't have Wi-Fi or
I hear you.
cell service, and you're like, oh man, I need to get a hold of someone. So I feel you.
We have a whole bunch of high school students and college students in our audience tonight, along with educators and a whole plethora of different folks. And particularly the students want to know from Monique Lamone, why did you decide to become a senator? And there's a bunch of follow-up questions, so get ready.
All right. Okay. So I have to tell everybody, first and foremost, I'm an accidental politician, everybody. I did not know this is what I was going to do in my life. I never planned to do this in my life, but it was the work that I did with students in this community. I worked for 14 years with students in Santa Barbara County. And I learned that for students, it wasn't just about creating the right classroom space. It was about creating the right life, the right environment. And the issues that students and their families cared about went well past beyond the classroom. They included healthcare, transportation, housing, jobs. I mean, the list just went on. And it was that work that inspired me to serve on nonprofit boards. And from nonprofit boards, and I see that someone really special to me is on here, Annette Cordero, who was on the Santa Barbara Unified School Board with me. And one of the key people, her and Congressmember Carbajal were key in encouraging me, to run for office. When I was like, are you sure I can do it? I remember asking Annette Cordero, do you think I'm qualified? And she looked at me and she's like, are you serious? She's like, you're absolutely qualified. So I want people to know I had doubts. I didn't know I was going to do this. I didn't know if I was good enough to do this. And it was an incredible amount of people who motivated me, who encouraged me, and who also stood by my side while I did this. We don't do this alone. So for all of the students that are out there, know that we can have accidental futures if we're willing to, walk through an unknown door. If the interest is there and the commitment to put in the hard work.
Very good. And knowing what you know now, what advice about being a change maker, what advice would you go back and give your 17-year-old self?
If I could give my 17-year-old self advice, it would certainly be to, believe in myself, trust your gut, and be okay with being uncomfortable sometimes, right? Sometimes these doors we walk through, you've heard me say it here, that I've been the first on a few things that I've done. And you don't always want to walk through those doors because there's not a lot of people that look like you, that understand you, that think like you, that speak like you. And you're very aware of those. But those are also really important doors to walk through because you just don't know your potential to impact. And if impacting in a positive way, the work that you do for the community is important to you, be willing to take those steps. I never tell people be so uncomfortable that it's wrong, but be uncomfortable that it challenges you to do more and to advance.
Wow, thank you so much, Senator Lamone. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for supporting the work of the unsung and the work for us all. So thank you for the work that you've done, and thank you for the work that you're doing now in Sacramento. And now I hope you'll be able to stay with us because there's an exciting video that's come in. Congressman Carbajal could not be with us, but because he's in Washington doing the work for our Central Coast, but he didn't want to miss out in honoring these tremendous women leaders, honoring Dolores Huerta, honoring Senator Lamone, and honoring the Simmons Sisters, such powerful change makers. He didn't want to miss out. and his staff was able to get this video, and we're able to share it with you tonight. So, ladies and gentlemen, U.S. Congressman.
Good evening. This is Congressman Salud Carvajal. Hola, buenas noches. Soy Salud Carvajal, su representante en el Congreso. Kudos to the organizers of the first annual Changemakers, Lucy Toms Harrington and Pamela Buchanan, with the Lompoc Vandenberg branch of the American Association of University Women. Thank you for creating an annual event to celebrate and recognize our wonderful women leaders making a difference every day on our Central Coast. I want to first start by recognizing an icon, Dolores Huerta. Dolores, you're a trailblazer with all the extraordinary and distinguished work you have done with your foundation, dedicating over 70 years of activism to improve the lives for the most vulnerable, from farm workers' rights to voter rights, education, women's rights, among many, many more issues. Thank you for being a role model to so many of us and for instilling in all of us the courage to believe in our ability to make change. You are an inspiration. Sí se puede. Senator Monique Limon, I want to recognize the phenomenal work you're doing in representing the Central Coast in Sacramento. First on the Santa Barbara County Women's Commission, on the Santa Barbara School Board, in the Assembly, and now in the State Senate. Thank you for your advocacy and leadership as Vice Chair of the Legislative Women's Caucus, and for being a voice for our communities in the Central Coast and beyond. I look forward to continue working with you. Azia, Amia, and Malia Simmons, I am so honored to present these congressional certificates to each one of you. You are our emerging and future leaders that give us hope and fuel all of us to continue the work of advocating for opportunities and change for women. Your courage to use your voices and creativity to express yourselves through a music video to honor women is impressive and remarkable. Thank you for inspiring a new generation of change makers. And thank you all for allowing me the opportunity to join in honoring these remarkable change makers. Muchas gracias a todos por darme la oportunidad de honorar a nuestras agentes de cambio. Felicidades, congratulations, upward and onward.
That was a great tribute to these wonderful change makers that we've had the honor to have with us tonight. And so with that, I'd like to get a little bit of feedback before we hear from the fabulous Simmons Sisters who are going to sing us home. So I'd like to share a poll with you, and if you could give us the feedback for this inspirational Changemaker event, we really appreciate it. We're going to launch our poll. There it is. There's only 3 questions. So if you could give us some feedback here, it's very straightforward. And we'll use this in terms of future programming next year and future programs on topics of interest to you. So we'll go ahead and launch that poll, and it's all the way launched now, which is good. And coming up in the next couple of slides, we will see how to support these change makers, how to stand with them and to support them, and where to go to get that information. So we'll leave it up for just a few more minutes.
And Lucy, if I may, as people are filling out that poll, I wanted to acknowledge our wonderful singers, because they had an incredible quote that I think I would like to borrow from them. And the quote in the last song that they sang was, "In my future, I can see a woman I can't wait to be." So I wrote that down, and I think that that's incredible. And it's so fitting for today's celebration and moment of what we're talking about. So thank you for giving me something that I can use.
It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There might be a trademark, but we'll probably be able, the Simmons Sisters will negotiate. All right, well, very good. We'll just go ahead and I think close the poll right now and end the share. And with that, I think we are ready to look at where to stand with the Changemakers. To stand shoulder to shoulder with Dolores Huerta, and it's our honor to do so. Visit doloreshuerta.org, and that it will be her foundation, the president and founder of the Dolores Huerta Foundation, and all the change that that organization represents. To give Senator Limon your input and to follow the incredible policies that she's putting forth for us. In the Central Coast, visit sd19.senate.ca.gov. And for AUW, we'd love to have you as a member and to have your support. And don't worry, you won't have to worry about how to find us when you leave our meeting. You're going to land right on the AUW homepage, and there's a membership tab, and there's also a donate tab for future consideration. So with that, I would like to welcome the Simmons Sisters again.
Hello.
Hello. I just wanted to have the opportunity to tell everyone, Asia Simmons, in the middle here, is a freshman at UCSB. Amia Simmons is a senior at Lompoc High School. And Malia Simmons is a junior at Lompoc High School. And they have written an incredible, this is how I got to know you. This is how I came to know the Simmons Sisters, a claim to fame. I want to hear all about the song that you're going to sing for us tonight as a finale to an incredible evening. Can you tell me about it?
Yeah, so we wrote this song for our musical theater class because we were going to be able to go on a trip to watch Hamilton at the Pantages Theater. So we were asked to do like a project. It could have been like a poem, a song, or a scene. And we chose to write a song, and it had to be about the history of our country. So I was looking through all the history, and I was like, I saw a letter that Abigail Adams wrote to her husband called "Remember the Ladies," and I was like, it like gave me the idea, like, what if we write a song about the women in our history and all the things that they've done? Because, you know, whenever you hear about our history, we never really hear about what the women did and like our founding fathers. So I thought that was like would have been a great idea, and yeah, that's how it came about.
That's fantastic. We're so, well, I can't think of a more perfect finale than for you guys to sing us home. And the name of this song is?
Remember the Women.
The Simmons Sisters.
Martha.
I'm George Washington's wife.
Abby. I'm John Adams' wife.
Eliza.
I'm Alexander's wife.
We clean around the house, we make our husbands proud. Stop talking! Ugh, it's our turn now.
Martha.
I'm the first lady. People think I'm shady. Learned to read and write, and at the time, that's crazy. At the front of the war, that's where I stood. Supplying hurt soldiers with care and goods. Note to everyone as Lady Washington, but my name is Martha, and it's always been Abby.
I'm the second lady. I oppose slavery, reminding my husband to remember the ladies. Men get weaker when women get smarter. Fighting for our rights, so we have to work harder. Education is important. Equal rights too. Us women have a voice. You agree, don't you? Hey! I'm not only just his wife.
Hey, I am living my best
I
life.
wasn't made to be kept quiet.
Hey.
I rise and pride and might and fires. Whoa! And my achievements shouldn't lie.
Behind the shadow of a
I
god.
won't let them suppress me again. So listen when we say, remember the women. Eliza.
I'm a rich lady, made it past my 80s, devoted my life building orphanages for the babies. Funds for my hubby, in return he got the credit. The monument still stands, I'm the one who made it happen. And I got caught up in the fame, decided to play games.
Cheer.
Without me, no one would even remember your name.
That's a little bit too far, don't you think?
I'm not only just his wife.
I am living my spot. I wasn't made to be kept quiet. I rise and pride in my defiance. Whoa, and my achievements shouldn't lie behind the shadow of a god. I won't let them suppress me again. No. So listen when we say, remember the women. Remember the women. Remember the women.
Wow, that was terrific. Oh, and we will remember you women. Thank you for being the faces and the voices to bring us inspiration on making change.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. And now the only thing left to do is thank you. We'll bring up the thank you slides. Thank you to Dolores Huerta. I can't thank you enough for honoring us, zooming in from your home to our living rooms and giving us the inspiration that we need to continue and to continue the work to fight for change and to fight for equality for us all. Thank you so much. And Senator Limon, thank you. Thank you for everything that you're doing for us in Sacramento. Your work on the banking and the credit front, the work on the child care front, which is so pivotal for us to obtain equality. And thank you for your advocacy for all of our children and all of our rights in a rural community. We very much appreciate your work. And we look forward to inspiring policies and laws coming forward our way. So thank you so much for your service. And the Simmons Sisters, way to bring it home. Make us proud. And I love to see the next generation of change makers, and I'm seeing them right there. So thank you for having the courage to use your voice through singing and songwriting to inspire us. Thank you all so much. And thank you to the Pillars of Change, our sponsors for tonight's first annual Changemaker event, the Allen Hancock College Foundation, the San Ynez Band of Chumash Indians Foundation, our contributors of change sponsors, the Fund for Santa Barbara, the Santa Barbara County Commission for Women, and Coast Hills Federal Credit Union. And to our collaborators, a shout out to the Associated Student Body Government of Allen Hancock College and all of you who are on this in this audience. You are our next generation of change makers. To our TAP TV partners, thank you for doing the broadcast. We have an incredible professional interpreter behind the scenes who is a change maker herself. Many thanks for bringing dual languages to our celebration. And last but not least, it's the AUW teams, our hardworking publicity team, Barbara Bolton, Amy Buchanan, Pam Buchanan, and Elena Jones. And nothing's easy about Zoom. And to make the magic happen, it takes a whole technical production team. So many thanks to Sarah Barthel, Hope Harrington, Tim Harrington, and a giant shout out to Lupita Rios, who is not only an Allen Hancock student, but also a great representative of the college as an Allen Hancock ambassador. Thank you so much. And on behalf of myself, all of our members and our board of the Lompoc-Vandenberg branch of AUW, thank you for joining us, and thank you for getting inspired like I am to stand tall and to make change. Have a great weekend. Goodbye.